My father shattered my childhood the day he whispered, "This will be our little secret, princess." My name is Marina, but everyone now calls me Grandma Lena. I'm 68 years old, born in a small Nebraska town in 1957. Today, I'm going to share a story that has remained buried inside me for over 60 years. Even my children don't fully know it. We lived in a modest home in a quiet Oakwood neighborhood, full of working families and quiet routines. My father, Anthony, ran a small mechanic shop behind our house. My mother, Claire, was a seamstress. She spent her days altering clothes for neighbors, always busy with thread and fabric. From the outside, we were the image of a wholesome family, church every Sunday, tidy house, no debts, no drama. I was an only child. My mother had suffered 3 miscarriages before me. Doctors had told her she'd likely never carry a pregnancy to term, so when I was born, it felt like a miracle. Marina is our treasure, my father would say. There's no amount of money that could buy her smile. And I did smile often. I was a joyful, carefree little girl. I played with the handmade dolls my mother sewed. I chased chickens around the yard. I drew chalk flowers on the sidewalk. I believed the world was safe. I believed people were kind. I believed fathers protected their daughters. How naive I was. The first sign came when I was 6. I was in the bathtub when my father walked in without knocking. I froze, instinctively trying to cover myself. "Don't be silly," he said casually. "I'm your father. There's nothing to be embarrassed about." He stood there, watching me bathe, smiling. That smile haunts me now. At the time, I pushed it aside. He was my dad. Surely it was nothing. But it wasn't nothing. It was the beginning. When I was 7, things started to change. My father had always been affectionate. He picked me up, hugged me, kissed my cheeks. People admired him for it. "Anthony's such a loving dad," the neighbors would say. But slowly that affection became something else. His hugs lingered too long, his hands settled where they shouldn't, his kisses crept too close to my lips. When I pulled away or stiffened, he would whisper, "It's because I love you more than anything, princess. A father can love his daughter however he wants." My mother worked constantly. She left early to deliver sewing jobs and came home late, exhausted. Most nights she was asleep before dinner was even finished, and my father used that time, her absence, as his opportunity. At first it was subtle, a hand brushing too low on my back, a kiss on the cheek that slid toward my neck. He masked it all as affection. "Our little girl's getting so pretty," he would say, running his hand through my hair. "You're going to break a lot of hearts someday." I didn't understand. I only knew that something felt wrong, a sick feeling in my stomach, a desire to run, but nowhere to run to. This was my home. He was my father. When I turned 8, it got worse. It was a cold January night in Springfield, Illinois, unusually cold for that part of the country. My mother had gone to bed early, complaining of back pain after a long day at her sewing machine. I was in the living room, wrapped in a blanket, watching television when my father sat beside me. "Come here, princess," he said, holding out his arms. "Come warm your dad up." I didn't think twice. He was my dad, the man who fixed my toys, who bought me ice cream after church, who told me bedtime stories. He pulled me onto his lap and wrapped the blanket around both of us. At first it felt normal, a father hugging his daughter on a cold night. Then his hands moved under the blanket. He touched me. "Dad, this feels weird," I said, trying to pull away. "No, it's not," he whispered. "This is how fathers show love. But it's our little secret, okay? Your mom wouldn't understand. She'd get jealous." Our little secret. Those 3 words would come to haunt me for years. That night, after he finished what he wanted to do, he looked me in the eyes and said, "If you tell anyone, they'll take you away. You'll end up in an orphanage where kids get beaten and starved. You don't want that, do you?" I was 8, and I believed him. From that night on, a new routine began. By day, we were the perfect family. My father, the hard-working mechanic. My mother, the dedicated seamstress. Me, the polite little girl with good grades and a sweet smile. But at night, our home became a nightmare. After my mother fell asleep, too exhausted to notice anything, my father would quietly open my bedroom door. He'd sit on the edge of my bed and whisper, Princess, time for our little secret. I would pretend to sleep. I would pretend to be somewhere else. I would imagine flying in the clouds, swimming in the ocean, running through flower fields, anything to escape what was happening in that dark room. At school, I changed. The cheerful, outgoing girl began to fade. I became quiet, distant. My grades dropped. I stopped playing with other kids. I sat alone, drawing pictures in the corners of the classroom, always of girls being rescued by angels. Are you okay, Marina? My teacher, Mrs. Wilson, asked one day. You seem sad. I wanted to tell her. The words were right there, caught in my throat. But then I remembered what he said. The orphanage, the punishment, the fear of destroying my family. So I just replied, I'm fine, just tired. But tired wasn't even close. I was exhausted. Exhausted from pretending, from smiling when I wanted to scream, from living a double life, child by day, victim by night. My mother started noticing changes too. You're losing weight, she said one evening, measuring my waist for a new dress. And those dark circles, are you sleeping at all? If only she knew. If only she could see what was happening every night while she slept. But how could I tell her? How could I say that the man she loved, the man she shared a bed with, was hurting me? So I lied. I'm fine, Mom, just studying a lot. The abuse didn't stop. It continued night after night, year after year. From age 8 to 12, I lived a double life. To the world, I was Marina, daughter of Mr. Anthony and Mrs. Clare. Quiet, polite, a good student who helped her mother sew and never caused trouble. But behind closed doors, I was just a body, a prisoner in my own home, a child silenced by fear, manipulated by lies. Even now, decades later, this part is hard to talk about. Sometimes the words just don't come. But I know I have to speak because somewhere there's another girl going through what I went through, thinking she's alone. She's not. When I turned 12, something shifted. My mother started getting more clients. A clothing boutique downtown contracted her for custom alterations. It paid well, but it meant she was gone more often, sometimes all day. Take care of Marina for me, she would say to my father, and he would smile that smile that made my skin crawl. Don't worry, Claire. I'll take care of our princess better than anyone else could. Without her presence, even asleep, my father grew bolder. He no longer waited for bedtime. Now, it could happen any time, in the bathroom, in the kitchen, in broad daylight, so long as we were alone. We're getting closer, aren't we, princess? He would whisper, touching me. It's our special secret. By then, I understood what he was doing was wrong. I wasn't the same naive child anymore. I knew this wasn't love. This wasn't normal. But the fear still controlled me. Fear of what would happen if I told. Fear of tearing our family apart. Fear that no one would believe me. My body was changing. I had started puberty. And somehow that made everything worse. My father watched me constantly. You're becoming a beautiful young woman, he'd say, lingering in the hallway as I changed. Just like your mother was at your age, but even prettier. That word, woman, dripped from his mouth like poison. It wasn't admiration, it was possession, a warning of something darker to come. At school one day, our science teacher gave a lesson about abuse. She spoke about inappropriate touching, about adults who took advantage of children, about how important it was to tell someone you trust. I sat frozen at my desk. Her words pierced through me like needles. It was as if she were describing my life, my secret. After class, she called me aside. Marina, are you all right? You looked pale during the lesson. I almost told her. I almost said the words I'd kept buried for so long. My father is abusing me. Please help me. But then I thought of my mother, of what might happen to her, to me. What if she didn't believe me? What if they took me away? So I forced a smile. I'm just tired, teacher. That's all. Tired, always tired. Tired of pretending. Tired of hiding. Tired of being afraid in my own home. By 13, I began to push back in small ways. Not physically, I was still too afraid for that, but emotionally. I started locking the bathroom door when I showered. I claimed headaches when he tried to hug me. I left the bedroom light on at night, knowing he preferred the dark. "You've changed, Princess," he said one night, irritated. "You're pulling away from your father." "I'm growing up," I said quietly. "I'm not a little girl anymore." He didn't like that. "You'll always be my little girl," he said, with a coldness in his voice that made me shiver. The word mine hung in the air like a threat. That was when I started to think about running away. I daydreamed about catching a bus to Chicago, starting over, finding a job, escaping. But I was 13. Where would I go? Who would take me in? And what about my mother? So I stayed. I kept surviving, kept pretending, kept waiting for a miracle that never seemed to come. Until one day, someone new moved in next door. Her name was Lucy. She was my age, but carried herself with a confidence I didn't recognize. We became friends quickly, and for the first time in years, I began to feel a tiny flicker of trust. Lucy was different from anyone I'd ever met. She wasn't afraid to speak her mind, and she didn't accept just fine when someone was hurting. She noticed the dark circles under my eyes, the way I flinched when my father's name came up, and she didn't let it go. One afternoon after school, she pulled me aside behind the playground. "Marina, you don't have to be scared all the time," she said softly. "If something's wrong, you can tell me. I won't judge. I just want to help." Her words felt like a lifeline, but fear still kept my mouth shut. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to trust her. But years of silence had built walls around my heart. Still, I started opening up in tiny ways. I told her about feeling sad, about nightmares, about wishing I could disappear. She listened without interrupting. She believed me, even when I couldn't say the worst parts. Lucy became my secret safe place. She was the first person I told about my dreams of running away. One night, I confided in her over the phone. "If I leave, I don't know where to go. I'm scared to leave Mom." Lucy's voice was steady. "You don't have to be scared alone anymore. I'll help you. We'll figure it out together." For the first time, hope flickered inside me. But hope was dangerous in a house ruled by fear. My father was watching closer than ever. One evening, as I returned from Lucy's house, I found him waiting at the front door. His eyes were dark, cold. "Who are you with?" he demanded. I hesitated. "Just Lucy," I whispered. "That girl is trouble," he spat. "Stay away from her. You don't need friends. You only need me." His warning was clear, but I wasn't the scared little girl anymore. Something inside me cracked that night. I realized that if I didn't find the courage to fight back, no one else would. After that night, the house grew colder, not just from my father's anger, but from the silence that settled over me like a heavy fog. I knew I couldn't trust him anymore, but I also knew I couldn't face this nightmare alone. Lucy became my lifeline. We planned quietly, whispered in hushed voices about escape and safety. I saved every penny I could, spare change from school lunches, coins I found on the ground, anything that might buy me a bus ticket someday. But the hardest part wasn't saving money or planning. It was keeping up the facade. At home, I smiled. I laughed. I was the obedient daughter, the girl who never caused trouble. But inside, I was breaking. One afternoon, during a rare moment alone, I found an old photo album, pictures of my parents when they were young, smiling and happy. I stared at the images, trying to remember when everything went wrong. And then I found a note tucked between the pages. My mother's handwriting. It said, "If you ever need help, call this number." It was a hotline for abuse victims. My heart pounded. Could this be my chance? Could I finally break free? That night, after my father fell asleep, I dialed the number with trembling hands. The voice on the other end was calm and kind. "I'm scared," I whispered. "My father, he's hurting me." For the first time, my voice didn't shake. I wasn't alone anymore. Help was coming. The next few days were a whirlwind. The hotline connected me with a local support center. They promised confidentiality and safety, and most importantly, a way out. I kept everything secret from my parents. I couldn't risk my father finding out. The counselors helped me create a plan. They arranged for a social worker to visit our home under the guise of a routine check. I was terrified, but determined. On the day of the visit, my father was unusually tense. I barely breathed when the knock came at the door. The social worker was kind but firm. She asked questions, observed the house, and most importantly, noticed my silence. After she left, my father's control tightened. He watched me like a hawk, but I was ready. One evening, while he was distracted, I packed a small bag, clothes, the few belongings I could carry, and the note with the hotline number. With Lucy waiting just down the street, I slipped out the back door, my heart hammered with every step. For the first time in years, I felt the taste of freedom. But freedom was only the beginning. There was healing to do, battles to fight, and a life to rebuild. Lucy's house was a sanctuary. Her parents welcomed me with open arms and warm smiles, something I hadn't felt in a long time. The social worker arrived the next day and took me to a safe shelter for girls like me. It was scary at first, the strangers, the new rules, but it was freedom. For the first time, I was allowed to speak my truth. Counselors helped me untangle the fear and shame that had wrapped around my heart for years. They told me I was brave, that it wasn't my fault, that I deserved to be safe and loved. It was the first step on a long road to healing. Back home, my father was arrested after the authorities investigated. My mother was devastated. She couldn't believe what had been happening right under her nose. It broke her, but she vowed to support me no matter what. I started therapy, slowly learning how to trust again, how to let go of guilt, how to dream of a future. If you've watched this far, thank you for listening to my story. It hasn't been easy to share, but I believe in the power of truth and healing. If you or someone you know is suffering in silence, please remember you are not alone. There is help. There is hope. Speak up. Reach out. It might be the hardest thing you ever do, but it could also save your life. If this story moved you, please like and share to raise awareness. Subscribe for more real stories that matter, and in the comments let me know what part of this story touched you the most. Your voice matters, just like mine. Together we can break the silence. Thank you for being here with me.